Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando enikhombise lona lingaphezulu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisisupport njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Namhlanje usuku olukhulu lapho khona eParliament kukhulunywa kuzovotelwa i-appropriation bill okuyisigaba sesibili noma sesithatha angisakhumbuli kahle sebudget. So iDA uJohn Steenhuisen izolo ubhalele postile wathi iDA izosupporta i-2025-26 appropriation bill ukulandela i-decision ka-President uRamaphosa ukuthi axoshe uMinister uNkabane after iDA imfakele i-pressure. I-pressure from the DA iyenza ukuthi i-GNU ithola ama-results. So iDA izoqhubeka nokuleader against corruption.
Speaker, there's only one proven way to turn these numbers around and restore dignity to the lives of South Africans, and that is through sustained economic growth of between 3 and 4%. Yet, under the government of national disunity, economic growth continues to stagnate. The economy limped along at just 0.1% in the first quarter, and the Financial and Fiscal Commission warns of a possible recession with a lower bound forecast of negative 1.6% over the medium term. Given this dire context, one would expect an appropriation bill that is laser focused on driving industrial development, infrastructure expenditure and entrepreneurship. Instead, what we have before us is a budget that allocates crumbs to the very departments tasked with igniting economic growth. Speaker, economic growth will not be achieved by empty speeches and unity charades. Growth must be bold, pragmatic, and implementable reforms, and budget allocations must reflect that. This bill does not. It lacks vision, coherence, and urgency. And let's be clear, the problem is that there isn't enough money to grow this economy. The problem is that there's too much of our public money is lost to corruption, cadre deployment, bloated bureaucracy, and egos. Let me give one just example, the SETAs, which were meant to drive skills development. Instead, many have become cesspools of corruption and cadre deployment, with little to no accountability for the billions they absorb. Shockingly, the budget allocation for the SETAs alone is equivalent of the combined departmental budgets for the trade and industry, public works, small business development, and tourism, departments that should be powering economic growth. Another example is the luxury lifestyle of the bloated GNU cabinet. We now have more ministers travelling more frequently in greater luxury with larger entourages. This too is a form of corruption, the systemic abuse of taxpayers' funds in full view of the public. Speaker, there is enough money to run this country and to run it well. But there is not enough money to run a bloated cabinet and feed the voracious greed of the ANC comrades, pillaging SOEs, SETAs, the Road Accident Fund, and every tender in sight.
Njengoba umuzwaka lo bekhuluma la uTroliphi we-Action SA. Ngizocaphuna lana abantu ababili, ngizocaphuna Omphile Matwe, lo we-MK Party angimazi ukuthi ubani. Ngoba ngiyafisa ukuzwa ukuthi iziphi izinto okukhulunywa ngazo njengoba kukhulunywa udaba le budget. Siyazi ekugcineni kosuku kuzovota. Obviously bazoyivotela le appropriation bill izophasa. Njengoba iDA nje ithi izoyeseka. iDA neANC bebodwa bayawuhlanganisa u51%. Okusho ukuthi bebo babili nje bengaphasa. So njengoba iANC nesupport yeDA sengafika amanye amapolitiki siyazi vele inkatha ayikho into yakayiphikisa esho iANC. Siyazi vele iPA ayikho into yakayiphikisa esho iANC. So izophasa ke le appropriation bill. Kodwa ngiyafisa uzizwe bezibeka lezi zinto abazobe bengagculisekile ngazo. Ilokho nje ngifisa ukuthi ukuzwe.
Thank you, Speaker. Greetings to the President, Commander-in-Chief, Tate Malema, Commissars, and all EFF ground forces in South Africa, Africa, and the diaspora. We want to once again invite the people of South Africa to join the gathering of the poor, the working class, civil society, traditional leaders, pastors, and ground forces who will be gathered here in the city of Cape Town to celebrate the EFF's 12th anniversary. It will be a celebration of political clarity, revolutionary discipline, and a reaffirmation of the generational mission to dismantle the post-1994 elite pact that continues to exclude the majority. Speaker, the EFF rejects the proposed appropriation bill tabled by the Minister of Finance. We have participated in all mini-plenary debates and made concrete and substantive submissions of practical amendments that are going to give us the people's budget. We made proposals on all departmental votes, starting with the presidency until the last departmental vote, and expressed the voices, frustrations, and desperation of our people. We did not come here to play internal coalition games. We came here to make sure the voices of communities from Guyana to Atlantis, from Lusukisiki to Kuma are heard in this house. The people of Ekurhuleni who barricaded the roads and told the mayor that they cannot afford the fixed electricity charge of 126 rand and demanded that it must be reversed. The people of Diepsloot who were promised a bridge that was supposed to connect extension 4 and 6 in 2021. 4 years later, there is no bridge, yet 70 million rands has gone missing. The people of Josini, who were given one tap and promised water, but continue to complain about the lack of water. The people who suffered the recent floods in Mthatha, lost their loved ones and livelihoods, and many of them continue to wait for disaster relief. President, the people of Kailicha in Harare, Lita Park, and Kanini here in the city of Cape Town, who are treated like second-class citizens and are deprived of water, sanitation, and dignity, are forced into a life of crime in spaceless townships. Our people in Marikana, in Taung, Kwantebele, Mamelodi, and Tohoyando continue to tell us that the budget for these departments before the House today will not increase government spending, will not eradicate pit toilets, cannot hire more doctors, nurses, teachers, will not grow the economy, and will make them even poorer. These are the people who are not considered by people who support this budget. We must ask ourselves, who is this budget for? We know that for the supervisors in the government on neoliberal unity, led by the chief supervisor, Ms. Helen Zille, the budget is the tool to fight political squabbles inside the GNU. It is not a tool for transformation. It is not a tool for redistribution. It is not a tool, a weapon to fight unemployment, poverty, and inequality. It is a compromise budget negotiated in smoke-filled back rooms to keep a sinking coalition afloat. We know that for the members of gang units and prison gangs, they are just happy to be in cabinet, enjoying the gravy train. They don't care about the poor and what this budget means for them. We're still not sure why some in the GNU today support this budget, because it is the same budget that was tabled in the past 10 years and they rejected it in each of those years. The only thing that has changed now is that the very same people are now in cabinet. Principles have been sold for posts and blue lights. Economic logic has been sacrificed at the altar of convenience. So the support of this budget is not based on principle or the interest of the poor of our masses. President, we did not just object to the departmental budget. We said there are things that all of us can agree on. Even if some are trying to score political points with the budget, we can agree that let's amend the proposed appropriation bill to increase the health budget so that we can employ the 9,000 doctors who are unemployed today. Doctors who were trained in Cuba, Russia, and here in South Africa, many of them from poor backgrounds, who want nothing more than to serve their people. We said, let's agree to increase funding for basic education so that there is no public school that has a vacancy of teacher and pit toilets by the end of this year. The children of the poor are still learning under trees, walking long distances, and suffering without nutrition or support while we boast about surpluses. Let's agree to amend the proposed budget for Stats SA so that we increase it and allow the Statistician General and the team to continue to hire qualitative and quantitative professionals. Stats SA must fill all the vacancies so that we are not subjected to the mediocrity of some white, racist, arrogant banker who thinks that starting a business through a loan shark tendencies on the blood and sweat of Marikana qualifies him to collect statistics on a complex thing such as unemployment. We even said, let's increase SARS budget because the SARS commissioner said, if we give him additional funding of 4 billion in this financial year, not over some imaginary medium-term period, he can collect over 700 billion. Why are we not doing that? Why are we not closing the tax gap? Why are we not strengthening the state? And we said that we are willing to make all these amendments within the past fiscal framework, even though it was rejected. But it's the correct procedure. But we are called the most unreasonable political party. We did not turn this budget into a political football, but we engaged in a principled manner, and for that, we reject the 2025 appropriation bill. I thank you.
Utreasurer General we-EFF ku-Omphile Mawutwe ngingamlalela usuku lonke. Alikho ithuba akalithola wangayikhuluma into ebalulekile nefanele yenzeke. Yabona uma ungalalela ama-portfolio committee lapho kudiscusswa khona lezi zinto okuziwa khona nama-recommendations. Njengoba umuzwe ekhuluma bayawabeka lapha ama-recommendations, kodwa enye into ehluphayo ukuthi it's a game of numbers. Noma ungawabeka ama-recommendation ekugcineni kosuku kufuneka kuvotwe. Ila inkinga ifika ibe khona. Kodwa ngoba it's a game of numbers, kodwa yena uyazibeka izinto ezibalulekile. Uyazibeka futhi ozibonayo ukuthi uma bengase babeke ukuthi umuntu uphuma kuyiphi political party bakubeka eceleni lokho, balalela kushoyo kubonakala ukuthi angeke kwayisiza country kwayisa phambili. Mzukwane ipolitiki esinayo yafika kulelo zinga, impela sobona izwe lakithi lithuthuka. Angiqhubeke ke ngicaphune ubhuti lo MK party bese siyayivala ivideo.
Speaker, honorable members and the people of South Africa, there is a saying that says, desperate times demand desperate measures. This is not the time for technicalities, but rather focus on bold and courageous measures to change the course of our history. Regrettably, the Minister of Finance, the ANC, and the entire so-called GNU had missed the opportunity to redefine the economic trajectory and set South Africa on a new path of sustainable growth and development, and start laying a foundation for a more equal society. Whenever we debate the national budget, there's an attempt to limit Parliament from exploring other available economic alternatives. There are so many scarecrows as this budget was not put together by the people. We saw this when we debated the proposal for the VAT increases earlier this year. The MK party insists that we need to look at how we got here from the first place and address the major policy failures pursued by this government since the advent of democracy. We refuse to be boxed to the policy paradigm of the so-called GNU. For us, the MK party, the economy first, the economy is first and foremost about the people and not profits. The MK party remains opposed to the orthodox policies pursued by the successive ANC government since the advent of democracy. And now by this so-called GNU, it is disheartening to watch the country fall apart, but the government is so determined to prescribe the very same medicine which is killing the patient. Through this budget and other economic policies, government continue to pursue more of the same economic, fiscal, and monetary policies which failed to bring about the change, but had only impoverished millions of our citizens. The Minister of Finance says, the Minister of Finance says in his speech that the budget proposed a bold and a pragmatic approach, and concludes that it calls for a macroeconomic stability supported by fiscal policy. This is a major fundamental flaw and a failure of the budget. It sets on the same path which brought us to where we are. What is the purpose of these macroeconomic fiscal policies if they do not result in full employment, food and social security, infrastructure investment, and greater access to health and education for our citizens? The macroeconomic stability of this government has only brought us economic stagnation and high unemployment. With its extreme obsession with debt reduction at an expense of investment and growth and stimulating the new economic activity. Today, unemployment sits at 42%, with youth sitting at over 60%. Food prices have been rising, with government unable to regulate effectively the food cartels in our country, but put all its energies on fighting spaza shops and small businesses. The electricity tariffs has surged. The electricity tariff has surged by over 30% in the past 3 years. And we saw this yesterday when residents at Tembisa were rising up against high electricity tariffs. And how this negatively impacts on the ability of the household to meet their basic needs. We call upon our people throughout the country to resist these high electricity tariffs. As we close, Speaker, mhlambe asikhulu beloku nabantu bakithi ukuthi lo hulumeni sila sikhona nje ingoba unawo amadlebe. Sizame ngako konke ukuvezela ama-alternatives ongawasebenzisa ukwenza impilo zabantu zibe ngcono. Kodwa kwacaca ngokusobala ukuthi uneprogram yokucindezela abantu. Futhi lo hulumeni uphethwe abantu abathile abangakhethiwe yilendlu. Yingakho usebenzela ucindezela abantu noma ngabe kukhona okwama alternatives oboniswa ngako ongenza impilo zabantu zibe ngcono. This ANC government and this so-called GNU is working hard ukucindezela abantu bakithi, and abantu bakithi abakhumbule uma sekiwo okhethweni. Njengomkhonto wesizwe sifuna kwenza kucace ukuthi asiyisupporta le appropriation bill ngoba iprogram neproject okucindezela abantu bakithi. Ngiyabonga eSouth Africa.
Thank you, Honorable Wakelin.
Ngithi nje ngikulethele nazi inkulumo ezehlukahlukeneyo njengoba kusazovotwa kusakhulunywa eParliament. Khuluma nawe nje kusakhulunywa akakafiki la kuvotwa khona. Kusaboniswana ilabo nalabo abasabeka ama-points wabo besho ukuthi bayi-accept or bayi-rejecta le budget. Kodwa nje ngiyafisa sengathi nalaba ma-political parties bangake babeke eceleni ukuthi baphuma kuma-political party maphi. Balalela izinto ezakhayo nezibalekile babone ukuthi lezi singazithatha noma ngathiwa zishiwo abantu abangabathandi. Bengithi angikulethele ke le nkulumo yonke le bikhulunywa lapha eParliament ngoba ekugcineni kosuku noma isiphi isinqumo abazosithatha namuhla sizo affect impilo zethu sonke. So kubalekile ukuthi lento siyishare ngoba lezi ila kuthathwa khona izinqumo ezo affect impilo zethu. Ngicabanga ukuthi asibambe le video la. Ngethemba lokuthi mina nawe sodibana kwi-video elandelayo. Angibonge kakhulu. Ama-subscribers kule channel akhula ngendlela engakaze ngayicabanga. Ngithi ngisabheke lokhu ngibona ngendlela akhula ngayo. Bengisajabulela u-17,000 subscribers kule viki eliphelile. Namhlanje ngithe ngiyabheka sekuna 18,000 subscribers. Konke lokho kodwa bengeke kwenzeke uma ngabe wena le channel ubungayibuki, ubungacomment, ubungashare, ubungalike ngoba ukucomenta kwakho nokulike kwakho kuyayilekelela i-channel in terms of algorithm. Algorithm iyabona ukuthi kune-engagement bese ithatha le video iyise kubantu abaningi, ikwazi ukubonwa abantu abaningi. So ngifisa ke ukudlulisa ukubonga. Ngiphinde ngicela ukuthi asiqhubeke sibambe indlela ebesibambe ngakhona. Kuyenzeka singaboni ngasolinye kodwa lokho akusho ukuthi sisuke sixabene, kusuke kuphambene imbono. Kuyenzeka futhi sivumelane. Nakhona futhi kusuke kusho ukuthi nje siyavumelana ngalelo langa. So ngiyacela ukuthi siqhubeke sibambe indlela esibambe ngayo nokuhloniphana nje okukhona. La ku comment section ngiyakujabulela kakhulu. Bakhona vele abantu abazixhwanguxhwangu. Ombonayo ukuthi ayikho into ongamenza yona ngoba uhlule abakubo. So uvele nje umbone yazini into ezongisiza la ukumziba. Sengikufundile manje hhayi abanye angingabaphendula angibazibe. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ngethuba nesikhathi sakho osithathile wabuka le video. Mina nawe sidibane kwividiyo elandelayo.